His views on video went from 100 on average at the high level to well over 1,000 to 5,000 per video once he showed up in them. And it got me realizing, wow, okay, the exact same content is available on his Instagram, on his website, in his weekly emails. But once he shows up and starts talking about this exact same content, people are paying attention.
So basically what you're saying that no matter how bad you are in front of a camera, whether you have trouble talking, whether you stutter and so on, it's still about 100 times better to be in front of the camera yourself as a founder, as opposed to just not be on camera at all.
We are talking today about influencing audiences with video, and this is episode 16 of LinkedIn Marketing Mastery Podcast. I'm really excited to talk to Justin about not only how to become a thought leader using video, but also how to actually leverage the new video feed on LinkedIn. And I've noticed, Justin, that you have been picked up on that video feed a couple of times already, at least. And I'm really excited to know what you have to tell us about that.
Yeah, excited to talk about that. It's going to become a new exciting thing. Yeah, I'll just get started. So I've been posting video consistently for a year and a half, maybe 2 years. And it's funny because LinkedIn had never promoted video like it did, carousels or text posts. Every type of format on LinkedIn has had its golden moment. Video was never one of them. And so when I found out back in March of this year, 2024, that they were testing a video feed, I kept checking my app. When am I going to get it? There were people they were barely ever on LinkedIn who had it before I had it. And I don't understand the rollout system. But eventually what happened was a couple weeks ago, I had a video, just one of the many videos I was posting, about 1.5 minutes long, posted it. And it was about point of view, having a point of view. And yeah, it blew up, got 30,000 views, or impressions, I should say, not views. And I was like, wow, this is the LinkedIn video feed. And so it's kind of a new thing for everybody now.
It's amazing. All right. Do you want to give us a little bit of a summary of what you expect our listeners to get at the end of this episode?
Yeah. So what we're going to talk about today is kind of everything that's on top of my mind whenever I write content or create video content for LinkedIn. It's always about leveraging video to build trust faster at the core of this discussion and of my thinking. Video is a trust building factor unlike any other, and even has become even more so important today than it ever has because of the advent of written content taken over by AI, right? So there's a lot of trust being lost in corporate brands, but also in what we're reading. Is this really written by a human? So that's the power of video, and that's the contrast I like to talk about.
Justin, you said that you noticed this in March when you first heard that the video feed is going to be rolled out. But how did it all start with video and you?
With video, yeah. So back in the fall of 22, I was running a recruitment marketing agency, and we were doing a few other things too, but essentially helping employers hire employees by building their brands on social media and with video. So I had a videographer on my team, and we had an opportunity to do a shoot for a client, the number one broker in LA at the time. He reached out. His vendor and agency, I was working with them, doing some graphic design, and they said, hey, Justin, I know you do video. Do you want to do some video for our client over here in LA? And we said, sure, yeah, it'd be $12,000, 2 days of shooting. Here's what it takes, And he said, well, he definitely doesn't have that budget. And so are there any other options? And I just come across Riverside as a platform, which is a podcasting platform, high quality video and audio. And I said, well, let's try, what if we tried a remote session, 30 minutes together, and I asked him a few questions, and we used those clips to put that on his Instagram. So we did that. He was terrible on camera. He never made eye contact. He stuttered so much. The lighting was poor. I think we used his webcam too. So it was really just poorly, it was a poorly framed. It was bad. And nevertheless, moved forward with the interview, got the clips we wanted, sent them over to his agency. They posted it on his Instagram. And his views on video went from 100 on average at the high level to well over 1,000 to 5,000 on average per video once he showed up in them. And it got me realizing, wow, okay, the exact same content is available on his Instagram, on his website, in his weekly emails, and people are consuming that a little bit. But once he shows up and starts talking about this exact same content, people are paying attention. And it's because he had a reputation in the marketplace, but he didn't have a way to put himself out there. He wasn't putting himself out there. He was letting the company kind of do all the communications. So it kind of tuned me into that and made me realize, oh, I wonder if there are other founders, other business owners similar to this who just need a way, simple way to get on video, share their thoughts so that the market that knows them just as much as they know the business will sit up and pay attention and get them the reputation and the views and the authority that they really should deserve at that point in their career.
So basically what you're saying that no matter how bad you are in front of a camera, whether you have trouble talking, whether you stutter and so on, it's still about 100 times better to be in front of the camera yourself as a founder as opposed to just not be on camera at all.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that's a pretty good. I'm willing to put my stake in that position, in that ground, so to speak.
Right, because it's not the same with content, with written content though.
No, it's
Because
not. You need to have
it's
it
not.
polished.
Yeah, because you are at so much more scrutiny when you're writing content, you know? Because if it's badly written, then either people are not going to read it, or people are just going to hate you for it, or people are just going to go like,
missing punctuation, ramble sentences. Yeah, nobody.
yeah,
We see that and we think, oh, this person doesn't know what they're doing. But
yeah,
you watch a video of somebody, even if they struggle through it, like he was, you could tell when he was sharing the insights he was sharing, they were real insights. He was sharing market information. Maybe his delivery wasn't polished, but the information he was sharing was critical. And when you watch somebody share information, even if it's staggered and stuttering, it's not ideal, but you can still kind of tell it's in their brain. They know this stuff, right? Even though it's not perfectly polished.
right.
There's one thing that you mentioned, Justin, and it's I think it's a big one, because most people that are not doing video is because they're either afraid of doing video or they think they're not good at video. And one thing you say is, well, what we do with you is just bring you into a Zoom call, and everybody's good in a Zoom call. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
that's
not
right.
that hard. So I suppose it's the context, right? So you take them into a safe context, into a place where they feel they can be themselves, and most people who aim to be thought leaders, they do have something to share, as you were saying. They're just not comfortable doing it in front of a camera. But I suppose nowadays most people, if not everyone, is comfortable doing it in a Zoom session.
Yeah, absolutely. When we talk with people one-on-one, we're not thinking about performance. We're thinking about sharing insights, contextual insights, helping the other person, right? We're thinking helping, we're not thinking performance. And the problem that we all associate with video, the negative thing we all associate with video, the default is, oh, it's a performance, I'm not going to do that. There's this stat out there of that people are more afraid of speaking in public than they are afraid of dying, which means that most people would rather be the one in the casket than the one giving the eulogy. Crazy statistic, right? Well, that exact same fear applies to being on video, because people assume it's a performance. It's like speaking in public. But that's exactly right. When you meet with somebody and you talk to them, it removes all that stress for the most part. And so if you can be a genius on Zoom calls, sharing insights with your clients and customers, you can do video content.
All right. So if they are with you on a call, that's one thing. But let's say that I want to start doing video myself, and I've never done video. And personally, my story into video was an interesting one. I was scared like crazy. I didn't know what to do, so I just went live on Facebook a couple of times, and it was horrible. It was horrible.
Mm-hmm.
But at least I got rid of the fear.
Yeah.
Someone is in that situation, they've never published video content. Like, what would be your advice for them to start by themselves?
Well, I would say don't start by yourself. Find a buddy. I call it the content buddy system. It's kind of a trademark little sentence we use, but the content buddy system is essentially the simple thing where you find a buddy, you ask each other questions, you record the session, and you're done. That's how I would start with video. I don't think people necessarily need to get good at talking to a camera on their own, or talking to an audience on their own.
Yeah. So
I
so
don't
you
think
make
that's
them talk to
necessarily,
someone else.
yeah, talk to somebody else. That's the product. That's our product. That's the Content Buddy system is what we've productized, right? All of our clients basically talk to our producer live in a call, and the producer asks them questions, coaches them, and then they're done. They move on with their day, and we get to work editing and posting. But you can do that without us very easily. You find a buddy, colleague, somebody you look up to, maybe even turn it into a podcast and take clips from that podcast, and that's your video content.
Do you think that it makes it easier if it's a friend, like an actual friend, an actual buddy, so that
Probably,
you feel
yeah. Well, I would say so.
comfortable?
You need to have that trust built, right? That's why
Yeah.
I say content buddy, because the closer you are to this person, the easier the video will be to produce. You'll be more natural.
And how do you make people comfortable when they work with you?
That's a great question. We have a couple different ways. The number one way is so I have a producer team now doing all the interviews. I hire coaches to do these videos, like actual executive. My two producers are two coaches, and they're very safe people, and you can tell that from the moment you talk with them, right? They're not young college students. Let's get to it. They're not technically savvy. I have a technical person on my team, Cannon, young guy. He's great. He's a technical producer. He can troubleshoot technical things. These people that I've hired are executive coaches. And so by their very nature, they're empathetic. And you can tell, right? There's a vibe, if you want to use that word. There's a feeling you get when you start talking with them, understanding, hey, we're here to talk. And, it's the language they use, but it's also the body language and the tone of voice and all that. That's the biggest thing. It's not any one specific hack per se. It's just hiring people who are empathetic by nature.
That's pretty good. Now, what should people be doing on their video content? Like, what's the content they should be recording and publishing?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, this is a big question because it's like, what should I be talking about? I'll tell you real quick. I mean, if someone's stuck not knowing what to say, like there's two levels to that. I've always heard people say, well, I don't know what to say. Or people say, well, I know what to say. I just don't know how to say it in a way that resonates with my audience. So if somebody's stuck with what to say, two things there. Number one, on our website, there's a download 40 questions. You can ask, 40 questions to help you position you as a thought leader. So it's prompts to get you thinking about what to say, and they're fairly generic across all industries. So that's the easy, check out the website. But the other one is you can go to ChatGPT now and say, I want to talk. I'm this, context. Like I'm a so and so, and I do so and so, and I have this many years of experience, and I think about this topic and that topic. Can you ask me 10 questions so that I can answer? Right, and there you go. 10 topics. Now, if it comes to how to say it, that's a different matter. And that's where having somebody with experience coaching you matters. But if you don't have that, let's say you are pairing up with a content buddy, you want to think about a 3-part framework I talk about a lot. And it's basically like, think about your video like a mini TED Talk. What does every TED Talk get really right? There's actually 7 parts to every good TED Talk, but the 3 most important parts to a TED Talk are the introduction, the meaty middle, and the summary. So when you do your video content, how you say it should be based around those 3 things. So you take your content and shove it into that 3-part framework. Really good hook, just like writing, by the way. There's nothing different from a good written post on LinkedIn and a good video on LinkedIn. They both start the same way with a really good hook. So one sentence, typically a question. This is not a question, but here's an example. I'll just throw one out. What most people don't realize about video content, right? Something interesting, tantalizing, makes you want to stay around to hear the rest. And then the meaty middle, that's the main part. That's the part we're all good about talking about. And then the succinct summary wraps up the whole idea. The way I like to put it is try to make it like your flag in the ground moment. Like this is the moral of the story, so to speak. When I'm interviewing clients, because I still interview a few clients, I'll ask them, okay, so what's the moral of the story? Because they just finished talking. What's the moral of the story? So make sure you cover those 3 things as much as possible. They're guidelines, they're not rules. But if the most important one, if I could pick any, would be make sure you can nail your hook. Make sure you introduce your topic in a way that's interesting.
Right, it makes sense. And do you think that for someone who's got their written content on LinkedIn sorted out, so they've got a content strategy, they've got like a top of funnel, middle funnel, bottom of funnel story going, and they're good in writing hooks, and they already have a solid content bank, do you think that they can turn their posts into video scripts and just translate the same thing into video?
Well, absolutely. I tell people all the time, there are very, very few types of written content that cannot be turned into video as well. I do it all the time. If I have an idea, I actually go the opposite way. Fun fact, but you can do it the other way. You can flip them either way. So I actually start with a video idea. I write out my points. and I create a video, and then I do the written post, and then I flesh it out. Sometimes in 60 seconds, you can't get to everything. I go the other way. But if you have something that's written already, you can turn it into a video, no problem. Just got to make sure you honor the time as much as possible. You're probably going to have to cut some things. You can't be as thorough in a video as you can be with a written post. People won't stay around that long.
Right. And would you say that video content creation actually takes shorter or longer than writing written content?
100% shorter. 100% shorter. It takes me 5 minutes on average to do a video. It takes me an hour sometimes to write a post. I've got a post I started yesterday. I was working on it for 30 minutes. I'd come back to it, do something else, come back to it. Stupid post has 3 hooks, has 2 different middles, and it has like 1 outro. And I've got to trim it down. Doing a video version of it probably take me 5 minutes. Again, that's the average for my content. And that's the average for our clients when we interview them.
Yeah, because you just record it and just whatever you say in front of the camera, you've already said it, and you also talk faster than you write. So it actually makes sense. But of course, if you're not the one who does the editing, because if you're the one who does the editing, I can imagine this blows up by a large. But
that's why it's a reason why I promote this idea of video first content. A lot of people go along and they think, okay, I'll do written post, and every so often I'll stretch and I'll put all this effort in and I'll really work hard to create this video, right? And I'm done. I got it done. Okay, 1 video, good, and then go back to written content. But that's weird. That's a very inefficient way to do video. What if you start with video content? You get used to it, and then to your point, you're doing 5-minute videos here, taking 5 minutes per video. And you're having a conversation with someone and you're getting your ideas out fast. And they're done well because you've got a coach. And then guess what? You've got all this transcript information you can turn into a written post. It's way more efficient. And I would argue it's way more fun if you're doing it right. Way more fun to create that content rather than toiling for hours over a post or whatever it is.
Yeah, I can see why some people would pick video over written, especially after the way you put it. But I've got a tricky question for you. And I'm sure you're probably the person to answer that. So we already established that the reason why it's definitely good to do video is because you just build trust way faster than through written content, because there's so many touch points. Like just people seeing your face makes them feel closer to you, and it's also miles away in terms of, let's put it like, style, as opposed to the selfies, which quite honestly very often just look very artificial. But I've noticed something very interesting when it comes to video. That LinkedIn started rolling out a little bit more in-depth analytics finally, so you can actually see who you've reached with each and every single post.
Yes.
So at least for me, in terms of written content, it's very predictable. I know that I'm going to get people from advertising. Most likely it's going to be companies 1 to 10, so small businesses, and the job title is going to be founder. But when I do video, it's just all over the place. There are no trends. It makes 0 sense. So I'm just really curious what you think about this, and why does it happen in the first place, and how to interpret those seemingly random results.
That's a great question, and I don't know. So when I create video content on LinkedIn, it's in line exactly like my other content. Like every time. The founder, the director of sales or marketing, it's always the same, right? I don't know why you're experiencing a different audience every time you do video content. That would be fascinating and worth exploring to me. What that tells me is LinkedIn is just weird, because LinkedIn is weird. It is not consistent. I can talk to different people about different experiences. I'll give you an example. If I post an average post for me gets maybe 500 to 1,000 views. I go over and talk to somebody else who posts once a month, and they're nowhere near the quality, and they get 15,000 views. Like, how does that work, LinkedIn? I don't understand why. It's like that my content, you look at AB, my content is deeper and more depth and has a better hook. I don't understand. It's the LinkedIn algorithm. It's weird, and sometimes you can't explain it. That would be what I would chalk that up to, but open to other interpretations.
On the one side, you have the LinkedIn algorithm works a lot on reciprocation, right? Because it's built for networking. So we know that, right? If you comment on other people, then they'll see your posts. So that's one. Like, it's not so much on the idea of yeah, my content is better and the other one's being more distributed. Yeah, maybe that person is engaging enough to get their content distributed quite a lot. But on the other hand, this idea of the video, I think LinkedIn has been experimenting with video for quite some time, even before they introduced the video feed. I published a post this week, I think 2 days ago, about this, because I'm relating it to how YouTube works. YouTube has the long form videos and the short form videos, so the shorts. And these are two different algorithms. Most people don't realize, but they are completely different algorithms. The long form and the short form are different. So when you publish a short, it doesn't reach the same audience necessarily as the long form videos you post. And this is just, it's an educated guess from seeing all these other platforms work. But I'm guessing that right now, and obviously LinkedIn is still discovering, this video feed is new and we will be seeing a lot of changes. But this is what I'm guessing is happening. We publish a video post, and the video post is distributed to our regular audience as anything else. But then it has a chance of being discovered by this other algorithm that distributes to the video feed. This is just my educated guess. I don't know what you think about it.
Well, I agree with that. There's definitely something else happening with the LinkedIn video feed. Yes, that's true. And if Dana, maybe that's what's happening. You're getting picked up by the LinkedIn mobile video feed recently a lot. And the way you know that is if your views just go zoop, straight up. Like, for example, my video that exploded the first 130,000 impressions, it was a week or two ago. That one, the audience for that was completely different, because it went to a completely different place than my first degree network. Fun fact, though, something I thought was interesting, and I did a little report about it last Monday, if anyone's curious about like what my findings were about the difference between my regular video content and the LinkedIn video feed content. One of the observations I had were, and it's a good one, it's a positive, net positive, is although I got one lead from it, somebody commented, not in my network, and it went to a completely different network than my first degree network. What I found is it also had the effect of showing up to my first degree network more.
Right.
Like all the engagement I got on it, most of the engagement, I got 80 something likes on it. Most of that came from my first degree network, which tells me that if it explodes in the LinkedIn video feed, it has a higher degree of being shown to my first degree network as well. And that's ultimately what I want. That's my goal, because my first degree network is where the leads are. Those are the decision makers. Those are the other marketers who buy my services and sell it to their clients. It's where the power partners are. I want my first degree network to see the content. So in the beginning, when I first learned about the LinkedIn video feed going out to a different market, I was like, whatever. And then I started seeing all the engagement from my first degree network. And I was like, okay, this is the value of being in the LinkedIn video feed.
And it exposes you to a new audience, I suppose, as well. It
does, yeah. And I had probably 20, 50 new followers as a result. That I don't know if they're in my ICP or not. I haven't done that audit yet, but I do know that the engagement I got was mostly from my first degree network.
I noticed as well from the mobile app, there's two sections where you can see the video. So it's the little video drawer, I don't know how they call it, that is in between the feed. And then there's the video button at the end, right? So when you go to the video button, this is what I realized. I am shown my network's first degree videos mostly. And when I see the other ones that are shown in between my feeds, they're more from completely different people who I'm not following, So there seems to be like two types of audiences. One they're showing to your network, and the other one they're showing to new networks. And maybe they're trying to just expose people to the video feed and see how that works.
I suspect, I know when YouTube Shorts came out a couple years ago, I don't know if it's still the case, but I know they were struggling to find creators on the platform. So they created a creator fund, YouTube did, to get people to create shorts, where they paid creators to create shorts based on views, not even based on ad revenue, because that's how all that stuff is driven. And so when I saw that LinkedIn was doing the same thing, I kind of wondered, I bet you LinkedIn's struggling to get enough content, short form content on here. So I wonder if as a result, they're just, what I believe that means is you're going to see a lot more random content because there's a small pool to pull from. If somebody wants to be on LinkedIn video feed and each video is 30 to 90 seconds long and they want to be on there for 30 minutes, that's 30 different pieces of content. But if no one is posting content, no one, very few people, then it's going to start drawing from a giant of random sources rather than, the ones that you may be.
Yeah, they need the adoption. Without adoption, they cannot introduce anything. So until they get people to adopt, they're going to start boosting. So those who start now probably have a very good advantage.
Correct. And that's exactly what I'm saying too, right? Because we're in a very, if you want to do video, now's the time. Because of the LinkedIn mobile video feed doesn't have enough creators on there doing good content. So if you want free views that surpass anything advertising can get you for the time spent or money spent, because it's free, you need to be doing LinkedIn short form video.
Justin, speaking about this, as Fran said, probably if you're looking to make some waves, the video feed is the best bet. This is my takeaway so far, right? But have you found any better correlation between an exploding video post and resulting leads as opposed to text?
No. It's not about getting leads per post. That's the post I'm struggling to write right now. It's the one that's going in 5 directions. But so this is fresh on my mind. If you look at content as post to get leads, one post to get leads, it doesn't work like that. And here's how I know. So I'm taking a step back, and I'm giving you a political answer, Dana, but we can get more granular here in a second. But I'm taking a step back. So bring me back to it if I forget. But basically, if you look at posting as I post to get a lead, that is the incorrect way to do it. The reason we think that is because it makes sense. I post for the purpose of getting a lead. And we hear people on LinkedIn talk about that. My post got me 3 leads. But I did an audit of the last 12 of my clients, and none of them ever referenced a specific post. None of them. I've asked them, was there a post? No, I've just been watching your content for a while. It's about the consistency over time that gets leads, more so than one post. And that's kind of, think about it, it's probably what you want anyways. Because if you're getting leads from one post and you're in a complex, high stakes, especially if you're complex, high stakes industry, or you're trying to be very picky about the kind of clients you onboard, you really don't want that when you think about it, because you want people to get to know, like, and trust you, get to know your style. And over time, then realize, I do want to work with this person because I know, like, and trust them. So you're attracting the exact kind of clients you want over time. If you get clients from one post or one video, you're not necessarily attracting ideal fit clients. Maybe you're really lucky and you do, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're getting you and what you're like. You might attract clients you're like, I just need this service. You were the first one that came to mind. You're perfect. And you do that for me. So that's an argument against having that mentality. Nothing wrong with getting leads from one post, but I have not ever experienced it. My content journey has always been, if I'm consistent, build trust over time, and eventually somebody reaches out from the blue, hey, I want to work with you. Oh, was it a post? No, it's just been watching your content for a while.
Right. But I would argue from a statistical point of view, it actually makes a difference because, how big is your audience right now?
I think I have 8,000 followers.
Okay, so 1,000, this is where you can really make a difference in like smaller circles, because you're not reaching so many people, and just nurture your potential leads up to the point where they say, okay, I actually want to do video, just is the guy. But I've noticed that for people with bigger audiences, and I realize that maybe in our current audience, we don't have so many of them, if they have like 100K audience, like even 50K audience, all they need to do to get leads and qualified leads, they just need to write that one bottom of funnel post, and like bang, you get like 10 people.
It's free advertising with that kind of network.
Exactly. Yeah. So they get 10 people, 9 of which are qualified to get to work with them. So I think it's very often, that's my just observation, very often when we talk about LinkedIn strategy, regardless of whether it's video, content, outreach, whatever, we never really factor in how big the audience is, because I've recently seen this proven over and over again that what works for a bigger audience just simply doesn't work for a smaller audience.
2 completely different LinkedIns, isn't it?
Yeah, totally. Because you can get away with so much with a bigger audience when you already have some kind of an established brand going and people know who you are. You can just literally, and by the way, I'm saying this from experience, you can literally get into someone's DMs and say, hey, your profile looks cool, and they're ready to buy. At least hear what you've got to say in regards to them buying from you, But yeah, you can't do this with a smaller audience because then, they look at your profile, they see like 7, 8K followers and like, who the fuck are you?
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, makes a difference. Isn't it funny though? I mean, you don't even know if that person. You could argue some of those people have bought their audience, and they have, that's a whole different discussion, right? Around how they got that
Yeah.
audience and how they built that authority at a glance. It's an at a glance authority. Oh, 100,000 followers. They must know what they're talking about. Versus, oh no, they've been in business 20 years. That's why they have 100,000 followers, because they've been building their thought leadership over the long term, right? Which is the kind of audience I assume you're talking about.
Yeah, more or less. Yeah, I would say that this is more this kind of audience. But then again, we're having a conversation of how influential is the follower number. Again,
Yeah.
And that I don't know. I don't work with any clients that have the 100,000s. I work with clients who have the 5 to 15s, 20s.
hmm
It obviously has a built-in credibility, the amount of followers, and whether we want it or not. Like recently on the podcast, Adriana Tica mentioned their perception is your reality, and it's true. Whether we like it or not, like people see 100,000, and I mean it's true for all of us. When I first came to LinkedIn, I bought Justin Welsh's course because he had 500,000 followers. I didn't know the guy. I didn't know anything about him. I saw a couple of his posts and I bought his course straight away. So that built-in credibility, I wouldn't have bought
Right.
from a guy with 2,000 followers. So it exists and
makes
it's
a difference.
there.
Yeah. It's we look for shortcuts as humans all the time for success. Shortcuts for success or for viability, right? Is this a viable solution? And that's an example of one in the modern day age. How many followers? Oh, they must know what they're talking about.
Yeah. And sometimes they don't, which is what you said.
Yes.
How did they acquire those followers? But again, there's another factor to this. How relevant are those followers as well? So even though they're leveraging a perception of credibility, their followers might not be relevant to what they're doing, and they might not be able to sell to that follow base.
You see that even with smaller accounts. When I talk to certain clients who they're pivoting into a new line of business, and their 10,000 followers are from 20 years of doing sales, but now they're going to be an executive coach and it has nothing to do with sales, right? It makes a difference because they're basically starting from scratch. Follower count doesn't matter anymore. Some of those people might become clients, but most follow that person because of their sales career, not because they want to be an executive coach. So yeah, the context of what the followers are following you for definitely matters.
Yeah, 100%. This is where I would just go in as a broken record once again that if anyone's ever in that position that they're switching careers, you have to erase your connections list because all these 2, 5, 10,000 people that used to follow you or were connected to you because of your previous career, they won't give a shit about your new thing. Like you need to remove them because otherwise you'll just probably come to me and say, "Hey Dana, why am I getting 100 impressions per post?" So yeah, just FYI.
Yeah, it's probably going to hurt your distribution more than it's going to help, because the
Yeah.
algorithm is going to see that most of your followers are not reacting to what you're publishing.
Yeah. And it's going to decide that it's crap and it's just never going to distribute it ever again.
Yeah, so cleaning up is Dana's favorite subject on LinkedIn, cleaning up the connection list.
Well, you're making me think because I'm like, that's probably something. When I pivoted from recruitment marketing to video, which was 2 years ago, I had that problem, low reach, and that's why, because I knew inherently, well, people are expecting me to talk about HR and culture and hiring and people and recruitment, and now I'm talking about video. What the heck? So I kind of knew that. The LinkedIn algorithm has now learned. It's been over a year and a half now of consistently. The algorithm has learned, oh, these HR people, and I don't get any more engagement from them anymore. But it's kind of learned. It's taken me a while, and I was willing to take a while. It needs to be showing it to the marketing people in my network, which has now become a greater audience, right? But I still have all those HR people. I still have hundreds of people, and directors of HR and things like that, talent development, things like that in my network. I just never cleaned them out.
Yeah, clean them out and your reach will jump with 50% because it's still affecting you. Trust me.
Yeah, you're right. That's a good reminder. It's a really good idea.
I want to bring this back to a topic of how easy it is to create video nowadays. But first of all, just one quick question, Justin. How long do you think a video should be for social media, specifically for LinkedIn?
I say the video needs to be as long as it needs to be, as long as you're keeping people engaged. So if you're not interesting, short. If you're very interesting, hey, make it as long as you want. There's no rule. That being said, there's a guideline. I try to aim for 90 seconds or less for our clients. For the longest time, I thought 60 seconds or less was what the mobile feed on LinkedIn picked up, but I found out because of last week, which I had a 90-second video, it'll pick up those longer videos too. I mean, I thought it was 60 seconds less, but I was wrong. Either that, maybe it changed since I found out, since I originally found that out. So 90 seconds or less, and it's usually good enough time to introduce your topic, talk about whatever B2B subject is your subject matter expertise, and then put a little call to action or summary at the end. Many of our clients can get it under 60 seconds, but you have to be extremely tight in your wording to do that. You have to be, the ones who can get it under 60 seconds are the ones who are public speakers. Otherwise, most people are going to get under 90 seconds, and that's totally fine. I do 90-second videos all the time.
And do you, in the editing, do you cut them a lot or not at all?
Yeah, we're giving the full modern day social media video treatment, which is a little bit jarring for Gen X and above who have not yet spent a lot of time on social media. When they see these kinds of videos where they're going blah 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 cut blah 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 cut, they've never seen it. They're like, why so many cut? Well, that's the norm. Believe it or not, that's the norm. Your buyers are used to this. Don't worry about it. So yeah, we do quite a bit of cutting. That being said, again, the ones who work with us who are the public speakers, we have to do less cutting. But even my videos get a lot of cuts, and it's just the norm. We don't even worry about it anymore.
Yeah, and I've been playing around with the YouTube short, and I do realize that even for a 1-minute video, if without cuts, people will get bored and swipe to the next one straight away. And it's like, it's incredible how quickly this new generation gets bored of a 1-minute video. They will not give you their attention for 1 minute unless you hold
Right.
it. You make sure you hold it.
You make sure you hold it. Yeah, Mr. Beast is a great example of that, isn't he? It's just like thing to thing to thing to thing, and he's doing these 15-minute videos, and you're like, whoa, how he just goes, just keeps going. It's like there's no pause. It's like this sprint that lasts 15 minutes. And even I'm a 37-year-old millennial, and I'm still sometimes like, okay, hold on, like give me a little lull or a little moment to catch my breath, but it doesn't stop. And the reason for that is, people have said it, everyone's got the attention span of goldfish. And there's often this like discontent with that, right? And I think it makes sense. We don't want to have these attention span of goldfish. But I argue, and I made this argument recently, and I stand by this argument, that the reason we all have the attention spans of goldfish, which technically isn't true, by the way, but the reason we have these short attention spans is because we have so much information we're processing every day. So if you think about it from a survival aspect, we should have short attention spans because there's so much content, there's so much coming at us every day, more than there ever has been in the history of mankind. So our brains are adapting. And so we have to get good at getting people's attention and keeping people's attention. It's not about boring. You could argue it's boring, but I would argue it's about, is this helpful? Right? Helpful. The more helpful and the more succinct you can be and the more helpful you can be in the most succinct amount of time, the more views you're going to get. And that's essentially what we help our clients with. That's what we help them get those ideas.
I think the problem with the attention span is there's a lot of content nowadays. So we didn't have to have this amount of content to choose from. So now we need to be picky. So that's what it is. It's like we're just filtering, I suppose.
We are. That's exactly what's happening. Is this important? Nope. And context matters, right? If I'm on YouTube and I'm scrolling and I'm just relaxing on my couch, I don't want to watch business videos. I just want to learn about video games and paintball and all my hobbies. I want to watch, I want to stand-up comedy. I want to watch all of that. I just want to enjoy that moment. If I have a video come through from a consultant talking about how to solve my messaging problem, I probably won't watch it. So I'll swipe, right? Context matters. I'm on LinkedIn and I'm swiping. I will watch that video because I'm ready for that. So it matters where you put the videos. And that's why, LinkedIn, I'm really glad they put this video feed in there because you can create video content on other platforms. It's just not going to be successful because people don't go to those platforms expecting to be taught lessons in the short format. In longer format, yes, but not usually in the short format. Now, I say that there's a big asterisk at the end of that sentence because there are people that I find fascinating, even if their content is business and educational. I'll give you an example. That would be Rory Sutherland, the VP at Ogilvy.
Yeah, of course.
If you
Of
watch any of
course.
his
The
videos,
legend.
yeah, you watch any of his videos, and he's absolutely fascinating. I could watch his content all day for fun because he's teaching me fascinating psychological concepts that apply to business and outside of business. So that's an example where you can have an exception, but if it's a very niche, nerdy topic in business, you're not going to survive in the YouTube Shorts feed. You're not going to get the views because people aren't expecting that there. Now you will get the views on LinkedIn because people are expecting that there.
Yeah, but this is exactly where I'm going to challenge you regarding the attention spans, because I really enjoy when I'm very tired to just go through some really, really obscure shorts. Like yesterday, I was just watching some vet pull out a croc's tooth, like teeth actually, because you pull out like three. And I would never watch this long form, but it was like 30 seconds and it was just fascinating. But at the same time, the other day I was doing some work around the house. I watched the entire Joe Rogan episode with Donald Trump, the entire 3 and something hours.
Wow.
So I don't think that my attention span is a problem. I think it's the expectations.
I agree. Yes.
And podcasts are bigger than ever now as well, and they're very long form.
Right.
Yeah, but this is exactly where my challenge comes in, and it is more a challenge to YouTube rather than to you. I wrote the intro, the promo post for this particular episode in a bit more contrarian style because I wanted to get people's sincere reactions, and maybe because I share this opinion myself as well a little bit. But I don't really. I mean, I understand what the point is of the video feed, but in my head, and also in a lot of the people in my comment section, it didn't really click together. And this is because they connect short videos and video content in general with entertainment, but LinkedIn is work. So how exactly do the two mix together?
Yeah, I would argue that's all we've had so far. But given enough time, it'll be. It's like how professional. I have this argument on a separate topic, but related, which is why do older generations, millennial and above, want polished video? That's not effective on social media. But why does everybody want it? Well, because for the last 100 years, if you're doing any kind of media, it had to be polished to go on the big screen and go on TV. But that's an archaic. In another 100 years, that look is only going to be reserved for movies. Nobody's going to be doing business content that's polished. Very few, we'll put it that way. And that's already the case. It's already declining. These videographers are struggling to find work other than shooting events and shooting these CEO videos for these massive productions, right? Documentary stuff. So that's a similar thing. Why do people think that? Because that's all we've seen for the last 100 years. But that's been changing now with social media.
That's true, but the thing is that, let's say from millennials especially and upwards into the generations, or I would say downwards into the generations, people have this massive resistance to the video feed because they're like, LinkedIn's work, YouTube or anything else, even if they watch shorts, if for entertainment, I don't even want to get mixed up into that. So my question is, first of all, is this actually them missing out a chance to be on the video feed in the first place themselves? And secondly, is this resistance going to go away, or is this just going to be maybe a segmented part of LinkedIn where just maybe the younger generation is going to hang out?
It's a great philosophical question. I don't know the answer. I do know that there's an opportunity, and it's a massive opportunity. And I would stand by the fact that regardless of where your video ends up, whether it's in the LinkedIn mobile feed or just in your first degree connections because it goes to the regular feed, it's a good practice to get into to build that know, like, trust factor, regardless of what feed anywhere ends up on.
Okay, makes sense.
There's one factor when it comes to this that I would like to get into. So you mentioned if the video is polished, edited, so like with a lot of so some of this editing will help to keep the attention. But what I would like to know is, do you advise people to just record in their offices? Because I've seen that you've posted videos from your car and all of this. So what's your
Yeah, it really depends on what you're comfortable with. We work with clients who have a very high degree of expectation of polish, despite it being a social media video. We have one client that's a VC founder, and she has a very high degree of expectation, knowing it's still a phone video, but the lighting has to be perfect, the sound has to be perfect, the words that are in the edit have to be perfect. And that's fine. We can work with that client. And then we have other clients that are like, no, don't give me the gear. I don't want the mic. I don't want the tripod. I'm just going to shoot the video when we meet with them every month. Just her and her phone and her little Bluetooth microphone, which isn't the best sound quality. And that's what she wants. And her audience is, these CMOs and marketing teams and these mega corporations. So it's all across the board. And we work with clients, whatever they're comfortable with. I don't know if that answers your question.
I mean, do you think that recording a video in your car as an executive, as a thought leader,
Sure.
do you think there's like any sort of do you lose trust for doing something like this? I mean, it's still social media, isn't it? It's like,
right. Yeah, I wouldn't say so. I was talking to, well, it depends. I'll say it depends. So if I was trying to target Fortune 500 CEOs with my content, remember age, okay, what have they seen? What are they used to? Are they on social media? No. What kind of videos are they watching? High slick production movies or documentaries. They're not on social media feeds for the most part, right? Gen X, boomers, maybe. That's who, so would it make sense to shoot a video in my car and to make an impression on that person? No. Now flip that. If my average audience is millennial, Gen X, millennial or above, which it is, these are 40, 35, 40-year-olds who are familiar, they're my age, and they are familiar with social media feeds and they're used to seeing that. Does it make more sense to do that? Yes. So that's what it depends on the context who you're trying to target.
So audience based, right? There's some interesting points here in the comment section, but I would like just to mention one thing. So a lot of people are afraid of video because they think it's very cumbersome and hard to put it out there. And Justin, you mentioned that for you it's even easier to record a video and then turn it into text. So there's different types of people here, right? So there's those of us who have it very easy to just create a written post. There's those of us who are even more comfortable to just record a video. But then generally, like for example, I'm very comfortable with text. I mean, I write for a living. I write sales copies. Like writing a post for LinkedIn is not hard for me. But a lot of times I find myself thinking, geez, I wish I was constantly recording myself and I didn't, because I don't have access to like writing, even on my phone. Sometimes the thoughts, I'm not quick enough to record the thoughts, and there's some interesting things I would like to record, So, but then the obstacle here is that a lot of people still think that video needs to be edited in the old way, like with a timeline, and you need skills for it.
Yeah,
but
you need
for
a
example,
script and you need lights and all.
Yeah, for example, right now what we're recording this on Riverside, and you mentioned that you work with Riverside, right? So when we record this, as soon as we click stop, Riverside is going to give us a script of what was spoken about, and script editing is a big thing nowadays. You edit as if you were editing text. So this is really, really easy for people who are afraid of getting into video because they don't know how to video edit. Everybody knows how to video edit nowadays. You might not be able to add effects or whatever, but editing your video, cutting stuff out of your video has never been easier. And you have Riverside, you have Descript. There's a lot of software that helps with this. The captions are generated automatically, all of this. It's one click. So I just want to give people the confidence to actually try some of these things out. And with this, I would like what would be your advice for anybody to get into starting video, and which tools do you recommend? And maybe for those who don't know what to talk about, like you did mention the usage of ChatGPT, but if you want to add anything else there, like sort of a guideline.
A guideline. Yeah. So here's how I recommend getting started with video. You find a buddy. You say, hey, I want to do some video content, kind of like a podcast. You schedule the time. You prepare questions. Send it to each other ahead of time. Save a moment to think about it, right? Don't write anything down. Let your subconscious chew on it. Our subconscious is so powerful. We never leverage it enough, and I think in our life. But our subconscious is what helps us get into flow when it comes to writing, but also with video. So send questions ahead of time. let your subconscious chew on it, meet together, ask each other the questions, ask follow-up questions, be little reporters to each other. What do you mean by that? Tell me more. Blah, blah, blah. Finish the recording. Then if you're using Riverside, you can edit right in the browser, like you said. Or I would argue, don't even try that, because as soon as you introduce any kind of friction to anything, you're not going to want to do it. Like there's this saying, they say, if you want to get good at going for a walk or a run every morning, put your gym clothes on at night. So you just get up and go. There's no excuse. You know, I have to get dressed. It's cold. We're here in Wisconsin where I live. It's freezing. It was 32 degrees Fahrenheit last night, 0 degrees Celsius. And I don't want to go outside, right? Well, put your gym clothes on ahead of time. In the same way with video content, make sure you're giving yourself as little friction as possible. And so I say is hire an editor, go to Upwork, go to Fiverr, find somebody that can do video content editing for $50 or whatever. It's possible. You can find them, you can see the examples of the work, and then say, hey, here's the footage, have them do it. And boom, you're done. There is no shortage of really good editors in Bangladesh, India, Egypt. I have an Egyptian editor who are willing and able to edit your videos at a very low cost. That being said, if you're like completely tight on money, yeah, use tools like what Riverside provides you to do that. And then guess what? You've got your video asset and you can publish that on LinkedIn. So there's still
that
the
makes a
publishing
lot
part.
Of sense.
So a lot of people don't realize that, and this is funny because like as I talk about this, I'm like, there's a lot of steps with video. It's not writing and publishing. It's like preparing, editing, recording, editing, then writing, then publishing, right? There's like 5-10 more steps in video. So try to delegate as much of that lift away as possible and as soon as possible. And that's the lift we remove for all of our clients. All they have to do is show up to the call. Because even what we discovered is 2 years ago when we started doing this, we gave the video content to the client after the interview. We edited and sent it over. But 9 out of 10 clients were not even publishing the videos. Because guess what? That was more friction. That was another thing they had to do. So that's where last year, 2023, summer 23, changed our business model. Add that in so we write and publish. So there's so many steps to doing this. At the end of the day, you have to really decide how important it is to you and your business to really go forward.
That's a really good approach. I mean, I would have thought about it the other way around, but I love how you mentioned that it's important to get rid of the friction, and it makes a lot of sense. And this is very interesting what you said there. Some of your clients, even though the video was ready to publish, they wouldn't publish it?
We would send them the video. So early 2023, we were just doing the recordings and editing, and we'd send the content to the client to publish. For them, they would publish it, right? They say, okay, now you post it. 9 out of 10 clients would never do that.
Wow.
And it was frustrating for me because the content they were sharing was good content. I wanted them to get their words out there like, hey, this is good stuff. So it was 2 reasons. One, they still lack the confidence, imposter syndrome, right? Oh, I'm not sure people want to hear blah, 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 that story we tell ourselves. And then the other part was they didn't have time. It was out of routine. Here's this new thing I have to do. You want to kill a project dead in the water as soon as possible? Give somebody a new routine they have to do. So what we decided was, hey, this isn't working for them. It's not working for us. We raised our prices in order to help our customers actually publish the content. So we started adding writing services onto that, and then we published it for them.
No sense. It's very smart.
Absolutely. Frank mentioned something really interesting here, which I never used. It's the LinkedIn, the thumbnails, right? So he asked, like, what about thumbnails for LinkedIn videos, similar to YouTube?
It's not a good spend. It's a great question. I have historically been, I've done thumbnails and I've not done thumbnails. And I haven't seen a noticeable difference in reach or anything based one on the other. Here's what I'll say. LinkedIn video has a short shelf life. And YouTube Shorts, up till recently, didn't allow you to pick thumbnails. So it was like, you can't even choose. It would just automatically pick it for you. Now you can't. That's a brand new thing. Like
on mobile only.
On mobile only. There you go. Yeah. Thank you for that detail. I do not believe thumbnails are a good use of anyone's time, because you're going to spend just as much time or more on the thumbnail as you are on the stupid video. And the video, especially on LinkedIn, has a maybe max 2-week shelf life. So unless you have a really good system, which we're trying to actually literally right now as a business trying to figure out that balance of like, is it worth doing thumbnails for clients? Is it because there's cost, right? There's like approved, because you got to get it approved. You got to go create it. And then can I get another option? And all of a sudden your time goes on the thumbnail versus just publishing the video and picking one of the frames from the video. That's the approach I've been doing lately. I'll play the video. I'll find the best frame that looks the most interesting with a couple words. I'll pick that frame. That's the thumbnail. But yeah, if you don't pick a thumbnail on LinkedIn, it'll pick the first frame as the thumbnail.
The reason why I never tried it is because it doesn't make sense, because the videos are on a loop, they're running on a loop anyway. So you're not going to see that still frame for a long time. I mean, it's 1 second literally, and then the video starts running.
You're right. I did think that too until somebody pointed out there's actually two contexts where thumbnails do make a difference. Number one, this is very, very niche. No one's going to do this. Maybe a handful of people. Somebody clicks on your past posts, or they look at your posts, and they actually see the thumbnail of your video right there. So if you go to anybody's LinkedIn profile, including your own, and you see video, that's the thumbnail right there. But who's going back and clicking on that, right? They're going to look at the words next to the post. So you could argue you don't need a thumbnail for that context. And the other context is sometimes, now it's a new feature on LinkedIn, when you are looking at somebody's post and you watch their content, sometimes, not always, underneath that, there will show up other content from them. It says something like, you might also like, and it'll show you previews of their videos. And that's where the thumbnails show up. Again, a very niche instance. So if you care about that, that's where you might want to do thumbnails. But I would argue there's no real business case for thumbnails on LinkedIn. YouTube, they have a longer shelf life. Maybe there is, but LinkedIn, I would not do it. If you do thumbnails on LinkedIn or any other platform for that matter, you want to keep it as efficient as possible. We're exploring things like AI. Another option we're looking at is grabbing a still from the video and then just putting the main message in words over the top. Kind of like how TikTok does it, right? TikTok helps you create a video or a thumbnail at the end. When you upload, it says, all right, pick a thumbnail, and you can put a little thing on there. That type of style thumbnail would be what we would go with if we decided to add that to our process. We used to do thumbnails on Instagram for a while. I would spend an hour creating a thumbnail in the beginning because it's got to be just right. I'd actually, because I'm a graphic designer by trade, open up Photoshop, grab a still, cut out myself, put the words overlapping, looks really good, right? This is like a YouTube level, like quality thumbnail, like a Mr. Beast. And I was putting it with my Instagram shorts. And then I was talking with an Instagram professional, and she's like, oh yeah, Instagram thumbnails don't matter on Instagram anymore. In fact, it's the other way around now. If you don't do thumbnails, like fancy thumbnails, that's the better way to go. And I'm not an Instagram deep level expert, but I was just like, okay, great. Save me all this time. And that's when I started thinking, wait, why am I doing these thumbnails? It's not, the use case is there, but it's an 80-20 rule. Like spend 80% time on the video, 20% of your time on a thumbnail, but thumbnails usually take way more than 20% of the time. Unless you have an efficient system you need to know about.
I think it goes back to what you said, expectations, viewer expectations. And on social media, nobody expects all of that elaboration. Like YouTube is different. Obviously, there's a bunch of videos to choose from. But at the moment, and specifically right now, there's not a lot of video content to choose from.
Yeah. Now, long form, yes, absolutely. Back you up on that, friend. You need to have a fantastic thumbnail on YouTube for long form content. But we're in the short form world, it's a toss up whether it's worth it.
Unfortunately, we're running out of time. Justin, is there anything else you'd like to add? Any last few tips?
I would say the sooner you can get into video content, it's a mindset thing. The sooner you can get into video content, the better. Doing video is 90%. I've been doing this 2 years. I've talked with hundreds of people. Everybody wants to do video, but a percent of people actually do video. So the opportunity is massive to stand out just by doing it, not even doing it well, just by doing it. And then part two of that is the sooner you can get comfortable with doing video content, the better off it's going to be for your business in terms of sales cycles and quality of leads down the road. It's a long-term play. This is not a short-term play. This is not a hack. This is not a fad. People are going to want video, especially when you position it against all of the AI content that's coming out. That's really dubious. People are trusting corporations less and less. It's just like 19% of people trust what corporations say. So if you employ a founder-led approach to content, specifically with video, you are going to excel long-term over your competitors who are just not using that approach.
Perfect takeaway from that conversation. And thank you so much, Justin, for encouraging people to do video, explaining to them why, and also giving such practical tips on how to get started in the best frictionless way. So it was a real pleasure having you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. This was a great conversation. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. It was amazing. Thank you, everyone who joined. If you're listening to us on YouTube or on Spotify, make sure that you're following the podcast so you don't miss the next episodes. and I'll see you next week. Thank you, Dana. Thank you, Justin.